The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, Realtors, and welcome to this edition of the SCR Webinar series, sponsored by the Realtors Education Foundation, REF. Today we'll hear from Trevor Knox and Dean Burroughs of TERMINIX regarding termites, their biology, treatments of termites, and how it can affect a realtor in their closings. Our first speaker, Trevor Knox, is Vice President of Sales and Marketing. He's been involved in TERMINIX operations since 2005, and he has worked in the field as a key man, sales and service technician, regional management staff, and also served as a branch manager. Trevor was recently appointed as Vice President of Sales and Marketing, a new position in the company. He's a native Colombian, has an MBA from the University of South Carolina. Dean Burroughs is a corporate training director with TERMINIX. He's previously spent 9 years as an inspector with the Structural Pest Control Division at the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. The agency is responsible for licensing and regulating structural pest control operators in North Carolina. In 1989, he accepted a position with TERMINIX Service Incorporated with the Corporate Training and Technical Department. And in August of 2010, Dean was promoted to Corporate Training Director with primary responsibility for training programs for all service personnel. Thanks for being with us here today, guys, and I will turn it over to you. Thanks.
All right, thank you all very much for allowing us to come and help out. Like you said, my name is Trevor Knox. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing, and I just want to take a quick moment to, before we start talking about biology of termites and how to treat them and how it can affect the CL100 and your closings, just a little bit about who we are and in a program that we tried to introduce before, and just want to encourage y'all to check out. But we are a franchise of TERMINIX International. We're based in Columbia, South Carolina. We've been locally owned and operated since for 65 years now. We are the 9th largest independent termite and pest control company in the country. So we have a significant number of customers. I think we're close to 200,000 customers. So we got a lot of resources and ability to deliver quality service, and we hope that y'all are able to find that when y'all call out for our service. A real quick update. We have seen a pretty good increase in our number of wood infestation reports over our entire franchise territory, which does include North Carolina a bit, but we've seen a 24% increase, and we hope that y'all are also experiencing that success. Things seem to be becoming more stable and increasing in hopefully home sales. So we hope that y'all are also experiencing that. And just real quickly, we do have our real estate referral program that we'd love for everybody to take advantage of. It benefits you as the realtor, your customer, and TERMINIX. Obviously, we get the opportunity to do the work, but you would receive credit for referring the service, and when the customer buys, you would get an opportunity to have referral credit that you can use for yourself, or you can help out with other people, other clients. But also your clients would get discounted rates for a lot of our services, not all of our services. But check out our link at partner.trustterminix.com for more details. I believe our probably one of the best rates for our termite protection plan is listed in there. So go on, create an account, and complete the property information for each lead, and hopefully you'll be able to benefit from it. And one more point, we're certainly pleased to come and help with these presentations. If there's any other subject matter that y'all would like for us, TERMINIX, to provide, reach out to the Realtor office, the association here, and we just want to be a source of knowledge and quality service, and we'd love to come back and talk to y'all about, I don't know, moisture or anything else that may be of impact to y'all. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Dean, and there you go.
Well, all right, folks. Again, my name is Dean Burroughs. I'm the training director, TERMINIX Service, and I'm awfully happy to have the opportunity to speak with you again today. Back in December of 2012, I spoke with you regarding wood infestation reports, the CL100, most specifically the newly revised wood infestation report, which had recently been approved by the Department of Pesticide Regulation at Clemson University, that went into effect January 1 of this year. Now today I'm going to speak a little bit about subterranean termites, their biology, maybe a little bit about their habits, some of the treating techniques that I'm sure you're already familiar with somewhat, but might point out some of the advantages of either or both, or and how they differ somewhat, and then maybe also the effect that termites and possibly their damage can have in relation to the wood infestation report, your clients, and of course the loan closings. This is certainly an appropriate time of the year to discuss subterranean termites. April is National Pest Management Month. I'm sure everybody was aware of that. Not, but if you're in the business, then you are. It has actually been recognized for more than 30 years by our national organization, the NPMA, National Pest Management Association. So it also is the traditional month for peak subterranean termite swarming activity in South Carolina. I can tell you firsthand that that was no exception this past Saturday, at least. If you were outside working in the beautiful weather, I was outside in the woods in Fairfield County up near Jenkinsville turkey hunting with my son, and I can tell you termites were literally swarming everywhere we went that morning as we hunted. So they were out in full force. Nothing seems to strike fear in a homeowner's hearts quite like termites can when you're dealing with a loan closing, I'm sure. Termites are estimated to do something in the neighborhood of about $5 billion worth of damages annually. So they're significant. They're very cryptic and insidious in their nature, which kind of further fuels our natural human fear of their ability to do damage to our properties. And since their tendency is to destroy wood from the inside out, they're capable sometimes of causing extensive damage while remaining undetected, even sometimes by a trained set of eyes. And it really doesn't matter what kind of structure you have, whether it be built of wood, brick, stone, stucco, what have you, termites seem to be able to find a way inside. So with these thoughts in mind, I'd like to share with you some of the facts about subterranean termites. If we look at this map, you can see what is probably already common knowledge, but when we talk about subterranean termite pressure, we're really referring probably more to the number of termite colonies per acre. And I don't want to get into a big talk about that because there are so many variables that affect how many termites might be on a particular acre of land. Clearly, though, in the southeast is the area of the country in California where we consider subterranean termite pressure to be the greatest. But obviously that can vary from location to location. If you were to take an agricultural field, something that had been a tobacco field or a cotton field for 75 years, you're simply not going to have as many colonies of termites present on an acre of farmland, field farmland, that you might have if you were to go into a wooded area and clear off the trees and try to build a property there. But, so it is relative, but certainly the southeast, the area of heavy infestation in the United States. Some things to know of interest about subterranean termites. They are social insects, meaning that they live in colonies, similar to ants or honeybees, and their colonies are comprised of distinct castes. There are actually 4 castes within the termite colony. You have worker termites, soldier termites, primary reproductive, sometimes called alates. Those are the ones you may have seen swarming or can see swarming at this time of the year. And then there are a 4th caste known as supplemental reproductives. They are adult male and female termites that are capable of reproducing. The females laying eggs just like the primary queen, only they never develop wings, so they don't swarm out and leave the colony. They remain there within that termite colony. Subterranean termite colonies typically develop underground. Great majority of the time, that's where they get started. There are situations on rare occasions where what we call aerial infestations can occur. This would be when termite colonies originate at some location actually above ground. The reason that this rarely occurs is because of one element that's critical to their survival that is usually missing above ground, and so they have to go to the ground for that, and that element is water. But if termites have an alternate source of water above ground, such as a roof leak or a plumbing leak inside of a wall, it is possible that they could establish or continue to survive quite well above ground without ever having contact with the ground, if that critical element of water is present to them in another source. But it is a rare occurrence. Subterranean termites, and specifically the worker caste, those are the ones that build elaborate tunnel systems through the soil as they are continuously foraging for food, wood or other cellulose-containing material. Mature subterranean termite colonies, and when I say mature colonies, I'm talking about colonies that have been established for 5 to 8 years, somewhere in that range. Mature subterranean termite colonies produce alates, or those swarmers that we've referred to already, which is the primary reproductive caste within a termite colony. Usually in the spring or early summer. Sometimes, however, we see some swarms even in the fall, but those are less dynamic and not nearly as commonplace as termite swarms in the spring. So what do swarmers look like? Here's an example of what they look like. They are approximately, the insect's body without the wings is somewhere in the neighborhood of 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch in length. They have 2 pair of wings that are, again, probably longer than the termite's body, or they extend longer than the termite's body is almost behind them. They're relatively clear. The termite body, it's sometimes mistaken for ants, but there are some clear differences between swarming ants and swarming termites. I probably should have included a picture of a swarming ant, but I did not. But the differences are the antenna shape. Ants have typically elbow-shaped antenna, whereas termite swarmers have relatively straight, beaded antenna. Their wings are equal length. An ant swarmer has 2 pair of wings as well, but they are of different length wings and slightly shorter in comparison to the wings of a termite. And then the shape of the body, an ant has a constricted waist, if you will, a segment between the thorax and the abdomen of the ant, whereas termites have more of a cigar-shaped body, straight waist, if you will. So it can tell them apart pretty easily if you're familiar with those 3 major characteristics. But when termites swarm, it is rather dynamic. They will produce hundreds, if not thousands, and in some species, maybe even tens of thousands of swarmers when that occurs. And when you have multiple colonies swarming on the same time, such as I referenced this past Saturday where we were outdoors, then there can be hundreds of thousands of termites in the air. Next is just a picture of some of the things that we encounter in the pest control industry as we inspect and crawl underneath structure, things that we look for, these termite tunnels or termite shelter tubes on foundation walls. Now these are built by a different caste within that termite colony, the worker caste, and these are the actual termites that do damage to wood. I didn't mention it, but the alates or the swarmers don't actually eat wood themselves. Their sole purpose is to swarm from the colony and create new termite colonies. But they produce young, which typically the great majority develop into worker caste termites, and it's the worker caste that actually builds the tunnels, forages for food, feeds the other dependent colony members, and of course does the damage to structures under homes. The next picture, this one is just an example of Formosan subterranean termites that are found in certain counties and locations in South Carolina. Now, I apologize a little bit for this map. I know that you can't read the names of the counties on there. They sort of blurred out when I enlarged it for this slide I made, but in the upstate there, that is York County. This was an isolated incident several years ago where Formosan termites were discovered in York County. I do not think there's presently an infestation ongoing of Formosan termites in York County. More commonly, however, and certainly concern is in the Low Country, specifically the counties of Charleston County, Orangeburg County, Dorchester, Berkeley, Beaufort. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's not some, even though it's not highlighted, Colleton County, Jasper, and possibly even Georgetown County. I don't know. Don't have verified reports of that, but they're so close by, it wouldn't be a surprise to learn that we have some Formosan subterranean termite colonies in those counties as well. Now, they are subterranean termites, just like the eastern subterranean termites that we deal with throughout the state. There are some distinct differences. The alates or swarmers from Formosan subterranean termite colonies are brown as opposed to black in color. Their soldier cast in the Formosan colony has a slightly different shaped head. It's more rounded teardrop shaped as opposed to rectangular or capsule shaped as in the case of the eastern subterranean termite. The workers themselves are very similar in appearance. You literally can't tell the difference between a Formosan subterranean termite worker and an eastern subterranean termite worker. The colonies, however, for Formosan termites are typically much larger, or they develop into much larger colonies, and they have a tendency to build what we refer to as carton nests up inside of structures where they can be full of tens of thousands of, if not hundreds of thousands of termite workers that when they build a carton nest inside of a structure. And that carton can be sometimes very difficult to locate inside the home. Okay.
How far can the flying termites, what's their range?
Okay, I think the question, how far can termites swarm? They're flying. They are not particularly good good flyers. They are very weak flyers. The wind currents almost seem to move them further than they are capable of flying on their own. But they can certainly travel 100 yards or more. It almost, and if there's a lot of swarming going on a particular day, that can be advantageous because it's obviously good if termites from one colony can hook up with swarmer termites from an unrelated colony and begin a new colony that way. But if they get so dispersed, then when they land, they're all alone, and that doesn't do them any good either. They need to find another swarmer of the opposite sex in order to fulfill what their purpose is, and that is to create new colonies. But anywhere from 25 to 30 yards, maybe to several hundred yards on a windy day would be a reasonable distance for them to be expected to travel when they swarm.
What type of insects or animals and birds seek and eat termites in South Carolina?
Just about any bird or ant or any other insect or animal that feeds on insects would probably find these termite. Are we talking about termite swarmers here?
I think just termites in general.
Termites in general. Well, termite colonies in general, their number one enemy, if you will, is always going to be ants. That is just their main adversary. But I have watched swarmers coming out of the ground in the spring and in the fall, and have seen birds just sitting there picking them off as soon as they came out of the ground. So they're a delicacy, I suppose, for predators. Okay. All right. I think the next slide that ran up here is just a picture of the CL100 inspection report. I've highlighted a couple of areas on it, which I think my next slide is an enlargement of the highlighted areas here. So what do we do when visible evidence of subterranean termites is indicated as an active infestation on a report? And then also, quite often when that occurs, you may also see under the section entitled damage, the block indicated that yes, there is damage, and then the notation under damage observed that it must be disclosed even if repairs are deemed necessary. Bottom line, what has to happen then when this type of report comes back to you? Well, in all likelihood, you're probably going to have to get the structure treated. And so I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about a couple of different termite treatment methods that, the most common termite treatment methods that are being employed today. And the two prevalent methods for treating subterranean termite infestations are conventional liquid soil treatments. That's one of them. Essentially, the way they operate or the way they work are that when a properly established barrier is placed with termiticide or termite chemical is placed in the soil around foundation elements and adjacent to them, it creates a lethal barrier in the soil that termites cannot survive if they come in contact with. This is, I guess these liquid treatments have been around for many, many years in the industry, may be referred to almost as the industry standard of treatment for subterranean termites. That some of the advantages, I guess, that liquid treatments provide is that they give a little more immediate control of the termites. They, however, do have the tendency, as any product can, to break down over time. The barrier could possibly become disrupted due to landscaping activities or maybe a pet or something digging adjacent to the foundation, disrupting the barrier. And they're a little intrusive on the property in comparison to another type of termite treatment that I'm going to talk about in a minute, meaning that typically involves digging trenches adjacent to the foundation wall, approximately 6-inch by 6-inch excavations adjacent to foundations to allow the product to be, liquid termiticide to be applied and penetrate the soil adjacent to the foundation and remain there next to the wall or piers or whatever they're being applied next to. Also, sometimes drilling has to be done to foundation elements so that termiticide can be injected into masonry voids and other areas. So it's a little bit intrusive, and the treatment can take pretty much the better part of a day or maybe even longer to perform. But they are very commonplace and have been around the industry for many, many, many years. The other type of treatment that I would like to mention to you, and I think probably the second most prevalent treatment now for subterranean termites, is a little bit newer technology. It is the termite baiting systems. Now, there's several in the marketplace. The one that's been around the longest and the one that we incorporate is from Dow AgroSciences. It's the Centricon Termite Colony Elimination System. But the way all termite baiting systems work is they essentially exploit the natural foraging and feeding food sharing behavior of worker termites. As termites forage around looking for alternative food sources, they literally bump into these termite baiting stations. And in the case of Centricon system, there is bait within the station when it is installed in the ground. Termites feed on this bait, and then they take this bait back to the colony. They share that information of the food source with other colony members who come and feed on the bait, and then the bait that is carried back to the colony by the foraging workers is shared with other dependent colony members. And essentially and ultimately what happens is that termite colony is eliminated. Very similar in nature to the way fire ant control bait works. When you put out fire ant bait, the ants pick it up, they take it back into the colony, and then ultimately as it's shared, that fire ant colony is eliminated, the same as the termite colony is eliminated. Some of the other advantages to this, it is a little less intrusive on structures, and we are using literally grams of insecticide bait as opposed to gallons of liquid insecticide in comparison to a liquid soil treatment. Perhaps the best of both worlds would be to use a baiting system for more long-term termite control, and then a little judicious use of liquid termiticides to spot treat the areas of known termite activity on or around a structure. Now, some factors that you might want to consider when you're selecting a pest control company when it's determined that the structure is going to have to be treated. First of all, in South Carolina, all companies performing structural pest control services must be licensed by Clemson University Department of Pesticide Regulation. unless you're already working with a pest control company that you've established a relationship with, it's usually wise to obtain several bids from different pest control companies. And it's always important to remember when you're doing that, though, you want to do more than just price shop. It is important to shop value, because you're going to find that you're going to get different types of agreements, contracts, or guarantees from one company over another. Obviously, as I pointed out, there are different processes for treating for termites, so you might want to weigh that in consideration, the price of a liquid treatment versus the price of a baiting system if you're getting estimates. But at least make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Also, as with any situation when you're dealing with service providers, whether it be plumbers or electricians or carpenters, anything else, friends, neighbors, and coworkers can always be excellent sources for referrals. Or you can simply ask the companies that you're getting estimates from if they would provide you with referrals. An important thing to always look at is to determine if the company who's giving you a treatment estimate, what type of service agreement that they're providing, and does that service agreement have provisions in it to repair any new termite damages that might occur after a treatment, or rather, is the service agreement that that company is offering, is it for retreatment only with no provisions being provided to repair any new damage should that occur after treatment? And then in any situation, you want to make sure that the service agreement provides for periodic re-inspections of the structure. And this is just critical for ongoing protection from subterranean termites, to make sure that should they find a way around the liquid barrier or somehow circumvent the termite baiting system and get back into the structure, you want to make sure that that is detected early on before they have a chance to do any significant damage. Okay.
If the seller does not remember when termite treatment was provided to their property, can a buyer or buyer's realtor contact Terminix to determine when the treatment was made and what the treatment entailed? And does Terminix charge for this information or need owner authorization to disclose?
If the house is under a service agreement with Terminix, we would certainly have records to that effect. We would probably, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking we would probably need to have a request from, I know the question was if the seller couldn't remember when. If they couldn't remember when, we can find the answer to that. If they can just remember that, Terminix treated my home, if the seller would contact us or the seller's agent contact us, we could look that information up, and we can certainly tell from that when we treated it, how it was treated, what it was treated with, that kind of information. So yes, we could. We probably need to have the contact initiated from the actual customer, which in this case would be the seller.
And also to tag on to that question, can the buyer or buyer's realtor contact Terminix to determine if the service agreement covers new damage or retreatment only if you guys were the ones who had done the initial treatment?
Yes, we could tell once we identified the property, we would know which type of service agreement we had in place on that property, whether it is a damage repair guarantee or a service only guarantee. The great majority of our service agreements are damage repair guarantees, but there could be exceptions.
And is that transferable?
It depends. The way our service agreements are written, if a structure is treated for termites, the purchaser of that treatment can assign our service agreement to a new purchaser of that property during the first year. After that first year, the purchaser cannot themselves transfer the agreement. But in the great majority of situations, with just but a few exceptions, Terminix is always happy and willing to rewrite a new service agreement with the new purchaser of that home and continue providing the service to the new purchaser of that home. Okay, all right, good questions. Okay, I think I kind of got through everything on this slide. Factors to consider when selecting a pest control company. Now, the other side of the issue addresses damage. So I want to touch on a couple important considerations to make when selecting someone to do damage repair, should that have to be done. First of all, I'd recommend that any structural repairs should be performed by a contractor licensed by the Department of LLR here in South Carolina, the Residential Builders Commission, first and foremost. By doing this, it assures that that company that's performing the repairs carries a surety bond of a minimum of $15,000. So that's just good sense, using licensed company as always. Proposals for repair should always be in writing, and they should specify the scope and the extent of repairs to be performed. And in most cases, a building permit is going to be required if the repairs involve are of structural in nature, which is, replacing floor joist, wall studs, anything like that that would be considered structural repairs, typically always going to require a building permit. Generally speaking, all structural repair work is guaranteed for 1 year. You'll find that most companies that are in the repair business full-time are going to guarantee their work for 1 year, materials and workmanship. And then just a point to make here, there are some pest control companies do perform structural repairs themselves. They have licensed contractors on staff, as we do at Terminix, and others do as well. But you might want to point out that sometimes that if a company does a wood infestation, if a pest control company does a wood infestation report and indicates that there are damages, and then another company, another contractor goes out and does repairs, typically the pest control company that has done the wood infestation report will not usually qualify or comment on or grade the repair work done by somebody else. And I'm sure you understand that's pretty much common sense. But if the pest control company, if they are licensed to do repair work and they do perform the repair work, then certainly that's another story. So with that, I think that is pretty much the end of the presentation that I had put together today for subterranean termites.